want to start with something important. I want to tell you guys, this is not my fire truck. I know a couple times in some videos it may have come off as mine, but I want to be clear just from the onset that this is not mine. And that means that the coolest thing in this entire room isn't mine. And I'm cool with that because I get to look at it. I rent some of the space in this warehouse to offset the rent, and this is one of the tenants. This is a 1954 American LaFrance V12 open top fire truck. It is, I think, in great condition. You know, obviously it's got faded paint. I find that as patina, I think it's very beautiful. You have amazing touches like this brass fire extinguisher mounted to the front. This thing alone is worth probably as much as the whole truck. And the reason for that is because you kind of have to have a space like this to store something like this. If you were to store this in a barn or even a pole barn, it would endure some wear. All the hoses and everything would start wearing out. You really, if you're going to maintain and restore one of these, you need to have it indoors in a heated and cooled environment. And I don't think it should be restored personally. This was in the tornado that we had a couple years ago, and so there's a little damage here, a little paint scuff going on here. But look at these hand-painted art accents accents throughout here. This, you don't get this. These hand-painted pinstripes, it's just from another time. It's obviously from another time because the Civil Defense Corps no longer exists. So that's a pretty dead giveaway. Came from Garnett, Kansas. It was actually used full-time as a fire truck for a long time, and it made its way through a couple owners, and now it is here. This is the beating heart, the American LaFrance V12. I don't know any statistics on this, but I imagine it makes somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 horsepower if I had to guess. The coolest thing to me is all those linkages. Look at the way that the carburetors are controlled by all these linkages mounted on the rear firewall. It's very elaborate. Everything is oversized. All the hoses, all the exhaust tubing is oversized. It's just very elaborate, and yet it's very simplistic at the same time. I would honestly love to find one of those V12s and do something cool with it, like a hot rod or something. But I think it's really cool that this fire truck has made it this far, and I think my favorite part is that Fallout-looking weapon on the roof. It's just gears and handles, and it just looks cool. So here on the dash you can see the roster of all the firemen and women who worked on this truck at the time that it was in service. And you can also see a little bit of the wear that it endured, but by and large it's in really good condition. It just looks aesthetically really cool to me, to be original, to have some of the patina and the daily wear, and just the art deco-ness of it all. It's phenomenal. There's supposed to be another light on top, but the tornado got that as well, actually. But it's complete. If we come around to the back, you get all of the ladders on here. Again, the tornado bent one of the ladders, unfortunately. But all the accessories are still here. You have a couple axes, should you need to manually fight a fire, should you need to chop a fire. I'm just kidding. Hoses, which I imagine were the ones that they used at the time this truck was in service. There's another hose there. One of the original stoplights. The other one's a reproduction. It was broken off at one point, but that's one of the originals. Some of the other hose extensions and such. A couple little smaller fire extinguishers. And over here you have quite a few knobs. I'm not going to act like I know what all of these do, but most of them are labeled. I think my favorite one is penetrate wet water. That's pretty good. But a lot of work to run one of these things. It's no surprise that a modern fire truck can not only save a unit a lot of time when they're fighting a fire, but also a lot of effort. Not to mention that this thing would have taken forever to get where it was going. It has an open top, so if it's raining or storming or it's a tornadic weather event, you're open to the elements and trying to fight this fire. It's just a recipe for a much slower response than you get from a more modern truck, so it's no surprise that this was eventually put out of service. But I'm really glad that it's been saved. Bill, the owner, he loves taking it to parades, the Christmas parade here in town and things like that. And I'm really happy it's being saved. I just love that it's being preserved, and I think it makes the room look a lot cooler because I will openly admit that none of my stuff is as cool as that fire truck. So there's the truck.